Yeah, so PTB was supposed to drop at 11 o'clock today. There were some delays. It came out around 2 o'clock Eastern time. So a little bit delayed, but it did come out. So anybody on PC can go ahead and go play it. But like I've said, I didn't download it specifically because I was playing with some friends who are not able to on console. And typically, from some recent conversations with the devs, they actually said that they don't plan to push PTB out to console. I just noticed I have enough cubby sass for a doodle request. Time for, oh gosh, here we go. Mono. Alright, so some of this stuff not too big of a deal. So some HUD changes. So a lot of the, I would almost call them bugs. So like the doctor, you used to not be able to see the madness levels on the HUD in the top left hand corner, but now you will be able to see that. Same thing for plague. You couldn't see how much sickness they had, and it was really bad for colorblind players. So just some kind of HUD nightmare, increased brightness so that you can see if they're in the dream world, stalking meter, that kind of stuff. The Cold Wind farm map, oh man, it looks good. It looks really, really good. Doctor got a facelift, literally. If you look up some pictures of Doctor, you could definitely see he's got some changes going on that look really good. So this is all for the Trickster. So Trickster got his movement speed increased while he was throwing. Before it was decreased really, really low, and it was difficult to kind of move around and use him really. They decreased the recoil, remove the spray while throwing blades. This makes it a little bit more accurate. Right now in live version, all of the blades gonna go everywhere and it's not super accurate. Decrease the blind, decrease the blade wind up time, increase the blind wind down time, increase the time before the laceration meter begins decaying. I don't know, as a survivor main, obviously I don't like that, but I think it was kind of needed because as soon as you would almost round a corner and because you couldn't catch up to them, immediately your blades would start decreasing. So I can see it from a killer perspective for sure. Increased the time before the we just talked about that. Increase the main event movement speed. So that, I don't know that that fixes his main event. I think it helps for sure, but I don't think it fixes it. Decrease showstopper's cooldown after main event has ended. Modify the Trickster's laceration meter artwork so it's a little bit more clear. Yeah, that was definitely needed. I'm not going to go through each of the add-ons because there are a whole bunch of add-on changes for each of the killers. So I won't go through everything. I'll highlight kind of the big things. So so this one, and part of the reason I struggle sometimes is because it'll tell you some things. You'll see like meters per second, you'll see seconds, what it was and what it is, and then you'll even see like percentages. So it's hard to kind of have a baseline when they use different ways of measuring the metric, really. The photo card is actually really good. So before with the photo card, if they were injured, you pretty much couldn't use the add-on at all, because you couldn't down them. But now that's not going to happen. Twins, there wasn't too much. Charlotte can now rotate while waking up. So before she was kind of like standstill as soon as she you switch between Victor and Charlotte. She really couldn't move at all. So now she can rotate and kind of look around and see what's going on with her, around her. Victor's failed pounce cooldown is 5 seconds. It used to be 3. So that's a little bit more. So you'll be able to kick him. You'll have a few more seconds to kick him. Now you can, this offering, this add-on grants undetectable for 20 seconds where it was 12, and then exposed for 30 instead of 12. So these are definitely 2 buffs to their add-ons for sure. Please behave your helpless twins. Ask God for help if you need to. Yeah, if you notice, like a lot of the killers, so like this is all Trickster. This is twins. This is all demo. This is all Freddy. All Huntress. And Huntress has been in the game for a minute. And then you go up here and you're like, what did they do for the twins? 4 things. Poor things is all they've done for the twins. Yeah, so I could definitely see the frustration. And especially because the twins are a relatively new character, right? So Blight, it went Blight, twins, and now Trickster. So the fact that they're not kind of revisiting the recent killers, and it could be that they need statistics, honestly. I wonder if that has, because behavior is really into numbers. So I think it might be maybe they don't have enough data to have a good baseline to see what they need to buff, and that's all speculation. I really don't know. Trickster patch is amazing, Freddy is amazing, Huntress is amazing, twins, they get a pat on the back. A pat on the back while they can rotate. Don't forget that part, mono. But yeah, so I want to be optimistic and think and say that maybe it's because they don't have enough data to buff them or nerf them. I don't know. So demo got a big rework in the PTB. So traverse the upside down cooldown from, it was 14 seconds and now it's only 10. Normal traverse upside down velocity. So that's definitely a nerf. Undetectable after 3 seconds of traversing was 2. So a lot of people were saying that this wasn't going to be a big change. I've seen a couple of streamers play it today, and you can definitely feel it. So there's add-ons as well that you can increase your undetectability, if that's a word, once you come out of the portal. So this 3 seconds base is really helpful, and then you can stack add-ons on top of it. That also is super helpful. So maybe the base buff is not great, but I think stacked with add-ons, I think it would definitely be helpful. Reduces cooldown timer of a successful shred attack by 20%. Rat liver 5%. So this is the one everybody is harping about. So a lot of people who play demo, and I can't speak to this honestly. I've never played demo other than PTBs. I don't have them, and it's one of my things. I'm trying to get some more killers and stuff to be able to test this stuff out for you guys. But rat liver, a lot of people say that they think rat liver should be base in their base kit. So the fact that it was 9% with this add-on, they're decreasing it to only 5%. So the fact that you have to use an add-on to get any kind of movement speed while you're charging your shred is crazy to some people, and then to nerf it from 9 to 5 is where people are having a big issue. But I'm not going to read through all these. There's a couple ones. This one I think is going to be a good one. Barb's glasses. So this increases the shred recovery speed when breaking a pallet, and a lot of survivors drop pallets early because it is a demo. So you're going to shred, I mean, I'd probably say 10, 15 pallets, depending on the map, at least 10. So being able to reduce that recovery time, I think, is super helpful. But yeah, a lot of these changes too, I think for the Huntress specifically, they've changed the rarity. Maybe not the add-on necessarily, but the rarity. Now that I finished homework, should I download the PTB? I think you should. I'm kind of jealous. I wanted to. Okay, this is also one I think is going to be super helpful. So there's no range limit on this one, from what I know. So survivor auras linger for 3 seconds after emerging from the portal. So you can come out of the portal and you can see all survivors regardless of distance for 3 seconds. That is crazy. On it, Captain. That's nuts. So like I could just think of this being used a couple different ways. Obviously, like if somebody's if the demo's camping a gen, he can go over there and see where they are. Or they think that there's somebody close for a flash save, but not super close. They could throw a portal down, teleport, and see where they are. Or if it's endgame and you don't know where the last survivor is and you've got one slugged, you can put 2 portals literally right next to each other, go into one, come out the other, and see the aura of the other survivor. I definitely think there needs to be some kind of either range limit or, I don't know, something. I don't know. But yeah, so the rest of these you could read through. There's some good ones for sure. A lot of people are talking about the nerf to rat liver. They're very upset about that. All right, moving on to Freddy. So it's funny if you read this. So the Nightmare has been overperforming for a while, and his game slowdown add-ons are frustrating to play against. We've made adjustments that should trim a bit of his power level while leaving the core gameplay experience intact. The slowdown add-ons are gone. We've replaced them with effects and sounds the survivors make in the dream world. So this is an all-around nerf for Freddy. I don't think I can see any positive changes if you're a Freddy main. So little disheartening if you do main Freddy. You might have to try some other killers, so good luck. But yeah, so all around kind of nerf for Freddy. So movement speed now adjusted to 4 meters per second while charging a dream snare. Honestly, I don't know that that is a huge issue though. So typically when you put down dream snares, you're actively in chase with the survivor. So unless it's like the beginning of the game and you're like dropping dream snares around the map, you'll see the difference. But if you're looping with a survivor and you throw down a dream snare, you're already kind of like slowing down to kind of see where the survivor is going anyway, that I don't think that this is that big of a deal. I take it back what I said about Freddy, please help it. So obviously it is still a nerf because your 4.0 meters per second is how fast a survivor is while running. So if you are holding a dream snare, you're never going to catch the survivor unless you cut them off. So in that aspect, it's absolutely a nerf. And because this is less than what he does today, it is a nerf. But at the same time, I don't think it's that detrimental that you'll see an issue. But maybe if you ask a Freddy main, it'll be a different answer. Dream snares charge reduced to 5. So they used to carry 8, now they can only carry 5. Typo. Dream palette. So it used to be 10, now it's 7. Using the clock to wake up prevents... Okay, so this is kind of cool. So when a survivor uses the clock to wake up, and only the clock, so if they get woken up by a generator or another survivor, this doesn't count. But if you wake yourself up with the alarm clock for 30 seconds, you cannot go back to sleep. Which means that if you wake yourself up and Freddy's standing there and hits you, you're not going to go back to sleep. And the second part is just saying that pretty much the killer gets an indication on the portal to say that you're in that 30-second period. So that's pretty neat, considering that a lot of Freddy's power is while survivors are asleep. So the add-ons, when a gate is open, the entity blocks it for sleeping survivors for 10 seconds. That's kind of cool. But then you think about the other perks. I know these are add-ons, but there's other perks that do this better. Specifically the ones that just came out on Trickster. Jump rope, while survivors are in the dream world, the sounds of their grunts or paids are 50% louder. Survivors in the dream world, the sounds of the generator pairs can be heard from 8 meters away. And then the sounds of their footsteps are 50% louder. So that's it on Freddy. So Freddy did definitely get a nerf, but I don't know that it's significant enough to sway how many people play him off the rip. He's a very easy killer to learn, so that's why a lot of people play him. Alright, Huntress add-on. So Huntress base hasn't changed at all. It's her add-ons. Let me grab a drink real quick. So there's some of these that's cool. No, he's hard. He's easier than some of the other survivors, or excuse me, some of the other killers for sure. So 10% hatchet flight speed. I've seen that in some of the people playing this morning. And it was actually pretty cool to see. Grunts of pain from hit targets are increased by 50%. Blindness effect for 60. We already talked about that. These two are now rare, so they still do the same thing. They're just different rarities. Findstone becomes weighted head. Hit targets suffer from incapacitated status effect for 10 seconds. So I'm pretty sure incapacitated is like when you have Victor on your back, you can't do anything. So you can't repair generators, you can't heal, you have to get him off of your back. So for 10 seconds, a survivor's kind of dead in the water. But yeah, so that's weighted head. This is this one grants undetectable status effect for 10 seconds after reloading. This is increasing your flight speed. The Huntress moves a little bit faster when she has no hatchets. Inflicts the exhausted status for 5 seconds, was 90. And then Iridescent Head prevents carrying more than one hatchet. So, same effect. You hit somebody with a hatchet and they die immediately, but you can no longer stack it with the other add-ons. So you can't do Eerie Head and I don't know the other name of the one, but you could bring like 2 more hatchets, and you'd have 3 Eerie hatchets. So I think this was definitely needed. Why are they making Dead by Daylight realistic? I don't know. I mean, maybe Trickster kind of threw us in there. The most significant live is the change to the survivor's hook input. So this one's kind of interesting, and I'm curious to see how it changes the thing. Changes the game. So one of the motivating factors behind that update is to reduce the number of inputs per second in order to make the game more accessible. So once you get on the second hook, instead of pressing the same button repeatedly, you will have to hit skill checks. And so where I think this might be interesting is how quickly do those skill checks come up. They did say that somebody who's trying to kill themselves can still kill themselves on hook. I just don't know how fast that is. So I'm just thinking of like end game scenarios where you have one person who is on the hatch or nearby the hatch and is waiting for the other person to die on hook. Whereas before, they had a few seconds of not struggling, and then immediately the entity was triggered and pulled them up. And I don't know how this changes that. I don't know if the 2 skill checks come immediately, because it's two consecutive. So every time you miss a skill check, it takes progression off of the bar of how long you have to die. But if you miss 2 consecutively, you're dead, and the entity takes you. So I'm curious to see how fast those first 2 come up and how does that play for situations like that. So we'll see. So this is the biggest change that I'm probably most excited for. So BT, borrowed time, and small game. Small game is actually going to be, I think, relatively important. So BT no longer triggers based on terrier radius. It just works. So that means Insidious Bubbas can go beep beep. Okay, so BT will work, from my understanding, map wide. Doesn't matter if the killer is near you, you're asleep, you're awake, it doesn't matter. BT will just work. Now, they did nerf it in the sense of how long you have the endurance state for. I think it's like 8, it might say it in here, it's like 8, 10, 12. So no longer required to be in the terrier radius to trigger, but the duration of the endurance status is reduced to 8, 10, and 12. And whenever you see it like this, that's the color of the perks. So obviously purple being the best, you'll have 12 seconds of endurance. So kind of a buff for sure, and then a slight nerf. I think killers will be a lot less antsy when somebody gets off the hook, that's for sure. I think this will make borrow time maybe go up to the 1-2 spot of top perks ran by survivors. But just to kind of look at the rest of these are all, I think they're all survivor perks, yeah. If you didn't know, I'm asleep right now, but BT still works, love it, I love it. Alright, so struggling during the second second stage of the hook is now a series of skill checks, we talked about that. Failing to give any input for 2 successive skill checks will instantly complete the sacrifice. Missing a skill check will reduce it. They've also changed repairing while using a toolbox now increases the odds of getting skill checks by 5%. So it used to, if you brought a toolbox, you were twice as likely to get skill checks, but now you're 5 times as likely. When the hatch is opened by a key, it remains open for 10 seconds. It used to be 30. So that's a significant change, and nerf for keys that a lot of people were asking for. So it doesn't change the rarity of the keys, it doesn't change anything like that. It just changes how long the hatch remains open once a key is used. So it is what it is. So small game, excited for that one. So gains tokens for each totem any survivor cleanses. Totems reduce cone size, no longer triggers for a totem you're currently cleansing. So you'll be able to see the aura. I think it's a cone size aura, based on how many totems, how many tokens you have. And those tokens are determined by how many survivors have cleansed. And now you'll know how many totems are left in the game with this perk. So Lucky Break. So this is another one that people are freaking out about. Cutie. Hi, Gemma. Gemma's my best friend. Gemma, I'm almost done. I'll be there in a second. I just have to go through right here. So Lucky Break, a lot of people are freaking out about, calling it the new meta. So this is the Yuri perk that everybody's talking about. So it now hides scratch marks as well. So right now it only covers blood droplets. It's now going to cover scratch marks. And the duration was reduced to 70, 80, 90. It used to be 180, 120, 60 maybe. The public test finished fast, epic. Let's go. BT change, awesome. FU Bubba, exactly. So yeah, so Lucky Break is definitely going to be interesting. A lot of people are a lot of killer mains are upset about it. They think that it's kind of OP, but in my opinion, and they're saying that because a lot of people are going to run Lucky Break and Iron Will, so you won't see the scratch marks, you won't see the blood, and you won't hear them with Iron Will. That's a big deal. So for however many seconds, they're pretty much undetectable with those two perks. But my argument is, if they're using Lucky Break and Iron Will, that's 2 less perks that a killer needs to worry about. That's 2 more less Unbreakables, 2 more less DSs, 2 more less BTs. So by taking up 2 perk slots, I think, will people run it? I'm sure. But at the same time, I don't think that it's going to be so meta that they're going to be able to run the previous meta on top of Lucky Break, on top of Iron Will. Can listen to you for days. You're so cute. So we'll see. That's my sense on it. Do I think it'll be used more? Absolutely. But also keeping in mind that Yui is a character that isn't given by default. So also the accessibility is a question there too. Soul Guard now has a 30-second cooldown between activations. So this was directly to combat teams that were all running Soul Guard. So 4 people would run Soul Guard and it would activate like one after another. So you're not going to see a difference in this unless you used to use that playstyle. No, how could you? How could I what? How could I what? I hate the delay. Oh, behavior. Open-handed increases aura reading range by 8, 12, and 16. Survivors may only be affected by 1 instance of open-handed, so that's definitely good. I don't know what it is now. I don't know what the current open-handed is. You know about love, sure. Yes, honestly, unless you run Survivor with Friends and all 4 of you have Soul Guard, you won't notice a difference, honestly. It doesn't change any of the effects of Soul Guard, just the activation between them. So if you're solo queue, you don't really have to worry about it. Unless you have 4 Cheryls in your lobby, then you probably don't want to run Soul Guard. Jansen Tactics now always active, and range is increased to 25, 24, 28, and 32. So this is a killer perk where they can see, this is pretty much killer's windows of opportunity. It is what it is. I think it's good for new killers. I think it's good for Doctor, since Doctor can play very well at pallets. But my dislike with this one is, why didn't we buff windows of opportunity then? Why does windows of opportunity have a cooldown and is not always active, and the range on it sucks, but we buffed the killer perk? So I'm not really getting that one, but I get it. I don't get it, but I get it. That's behavior. Literally behavior. Borrowed time, so no longer requires to be in the terror radius to trigger. Duration of enduring status effect is 8, 10, and 12. So we talked about that one. I think that's a very big buff and game changer. Oh, Dilly! Dilly! Dilly's the cutest. I think it's gonna play 5 times. Enjoy your subs! Dilly! Look, we're just gonna keep listening to it. Look at him on top of the leaderboard. Top of the leaderboard to Dilly. Can somebody put some hearts in the chat for Dilly? This guy has gifted so many subs. Number 1, baby. Yes, Dilly. Thank you. Put some hearts in the chat. I think one more. No? That was all of them? Alright, sick. Dilly, thank you. Thanks for the 5 gifted. Number 1, baby. Yeah. So we talked about that one. Yes, 1 second. Ooh, fire in the chat. If you guys did get a sub from Dilly, shout him out. Say thank you. Object of Obsession. So this perk has been completely redesigned. So whenever your aura is revealed to the killer's aura becomes visible to you and you gain 246% bonus of healing, repairing, and cleansing speed. If you're the obsession, your aura is revealed to the killer for 3 seconds, once every 30 seconds, and it of course increases your chances of being the obsession. I think it's nerfed it in some ways, but I think it'll be alright. I think it'll be alright. Thanks again, Dilly. I really appreciate that. We're at what, 100 and... I don't know. I'll need to... It's on the next screen. So bug fixes fixed an issue where you could watch, which caused the watch to be floating when equipping David King's